Hello, it's John Heaton, and today I'm going to look at the Electric Light Orchestra stroke Jeff Lynne catalogue and try and do a ranking. So I dug out all my albums, got most of them on vinyl, a couple just on CD, and one of them I couldn't find, the covers album, Long Wave from Jeff. So I won't include that in the ranking. And I also won't include this, although it's a compilation, it's newly recorded versions of ELO's greatest hits just with Jeff Lynne solo, and I quite enjoyed this album, although I don't think he improves on the original I know he thinks he does, and he slags off the original 70s production and says he's done it much better, but I think in all honesty one misses some of the other band members like Bev Bevan's drumming and Kelly Groucutt on backing vocals. And that's just my opinion. Well, we got Richard Tandy plays on there, so it's a fairly good approximation of the sound, but in my opinion not an improvement. The other thing I won't include in the rankings is Xanadu, which was the 1980 compilation between Olivia Newton-John and ELO, although ELO feature on more or less the whole of side 2. And there's a good ballad called Don't Walk Away, which is worthy, and quite a good hit single called All Over the World, which I like a lot. But that's about the only two standout tracks. The title track is okay, so didn't include that. So I'm down to 14 albums here. And as with every ranking I do, even like the Paul Simon one the other day, if I put something bottom, it's going to upset people because it's some people's favourite album, and you're the one that happened the other day with James Griffiths saying I really like that album. Well, I'm sorry James, as you know, it's just my opinion, and I suspect you're going to be unhappy with the last choice here, because I know you've got quite a lot of fondness for this album, but I have to put this bottom just because it doesn't really do anything for me, and I think they were going through the motions and they were to split up just after this came out, and it's not terrible, and it's got a good single, Calling America, and So Serious is okay, getting to the point, not bad, but just a slow decline after Time, I'm afraid, and that was, as I say, I think it's their worst album. So then we've got From Out of Nowhere, which was a recent Jeff Lynne solo album, although he calls himself Jeff Lynne's ELO these days, so I've included it because this ranking is about the group and the solo, and but I don't think it's a particularly remarkable effort. I think there's a couple of nice tracks like Songbird at the end, but it was fairly undistinguished. The next one, Zoom, I can't find my CD copy of it, but I've got the concert version of it where he did some of the hits as well. This is for the most part pretty undistinguished in my opinion, although it's got George and Ringo playing along on it. I seem to remember on Easy Money, I think Ringo's on that. But I was looking at the track listing of the album, and there's hardly a standout track there, which is a sure enough sign of an unmemorable album, really. I rarely go back to that. Number 11, we've got Secret Messages from 1983. This was I remember that when this came out, it was a big disappointment after Time, which had been such a stupendous effort. The cover is diabolical in my opinion, and the music inside is not much better, although Jeff Lynne's experienced enough to know how to write a reasonable rocker. Four Little Diamonds is quite a decent rocker, and Take Me On and On is quite a nice ballad at the end of side 1. Bluebird's okay. Train of Gold's quite decent. Rock and Roll is King is another one of those endless rock and roll songs which Jeff Lynne does. He knows how to do it in his sleep, and it just gets a bit boring after a while. He's continuing to do that in the Wilburys as well, and on Latter Day Records. I think he should give that a rest, to be honest. Now we've got ELO. I haven't got this on vinyl. ELO 2 is next. I've only got this compilation of ELO 71 to 73, which basically has the first two albums with bonus material. I was listening to both these two albums in preparation for this review because I thought I should reacquaint myself with them, and in both cases I was pleasantly surprised, and I've forgotten how good some of the material is, and particularly on the first album. But the second album is got some nice tracks, not only Roll Over Beethoven, but interesting Kuama track, anti-war track. And I think I'm right in saying Richard Tandy is starting to play keyboards here, so you can hear a little bit of his work on that album. And then at number 9, I've got the first album, ELO, and this really was a revelation. I'd really forgotten how good this was. And Roy Woods on lead vocal on 2 tracks, Look at Me Now and Whisper in the Night, and some great instrumental, or mostly instrumental, cello-driven songs like the Battle of Ma Marston Moor, brackets July 2nd, 1644, just very atmospheric. And you can tell, even though this album was 71, quite a few years before they made it big, you can tell the basic ingredients are there in terms of the vision of using the cello, combining with rock music. And I think it's a pretty distinguished debut. Now we've got, have I mucked this up? Well, maybe I've mucked this up a bit. I think I'm going to put Alone in the Universe next, because this is probably his best latter-day album. And I've got the CD album came out with a 3D cover, which I thought was cool. I wish they'd done it on the vinyl. I didn't see it anyway. Maybe they did. But this, When I Was a Boy, is just a great single, and Alone in the Universe, the closing track, is pretty decent. And I seem to remember the tracks in between were quite good. I was pleasantly surprised by that album. So now I think I've squeezed that one because I missed it off the list, I think. So we're going to now do the top 8, and number 8 we've got El Dorado, and 1975 or 74, sorry. And this is Jeff Lynne beginning to know how to write a smash hit single with Can't Get It Out of My Head, just one of their top draw songs. And Boy Blue and Poor Boy, brackets The Greenwood, are also top draw songs. Not quite as consistent as their latter day or their later albums. But this was the start of a golden period for them, certainly chart-wise. Number 7, I've got Jeff's solo album from 1989, Armchair Theatre. This was a revelation when this came out, because after Balance of Power I wasn't expecting too much, but as we know, he helped George Harrison produce Cloud 9, he joined the Travelling Wilburys, and then he got his friends to help him out on this album. So the musicians, this is on lovely white vinyl. I'll just quickly show you. Look how nice that is. And it wasn't too pricey. I mean, not, you know how coloured vinyl can be pricey these days, but I didn't feel ripped off. I was quite happy with that. And some great tracks. I think Blown Away is my favourite. Put that away later. Blown Away is my favourite, but we've got Save Me Now at the end, which is great. September Song is a good cover of that song. Lift Me Up is a good track on side 1. It's pretty consistent, and there's a couple of bonus tracks on there as well. So now we're into the top 6. And we got number 6, Discovery, 1979, the follow-up to the mammothly successful Out of the Blue. And as I've said in previous reviews, I was marginally disappointed when this came out, but at the time I don't remember complaining. It's just maybe with hindsight I wasn't as ecstatic as I could have been, put it that way, because tracks like Diary of Horace Wimp didn't make the mark for me. But on the other hand, tracks like Confusion did, which is just brilliant. Melody-wise, musicianship-wise. Need Her Love and Midnight Blue are 2 gorgeous ballads. Don't Bring Me Down is one of their greatest singles ever. Last Train to London, similar. Very catchy, very commercial in a good way. So that was a strong album. Number 5 we've got On the Third Day, 1973. I've got an alternative cover to show you, which is quite interesting, where this opens out. And then inside you've got the band members and the lyrics. So that's quite neat. I was reading that in the US this album included Showdown, but not in the UK. There was a standalone single. On the third day, yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, I think it's very atmospheric. Bluebird is Dead and Oh No Not Susan, the two of Jeff Lynne's most alluring ballads. New World Rising is taking what they did on the first album in terms of the cello instrumental kind of thing, well, perhaps not on that one, but in the Hall of the Mountain King, and taking it to another level. And Daybreaker is Richard Tandy on the synthesizer doing a great job, and Ma 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 Bell, probably their greatest rocker of their whole career, no less, and it's here on side 2. So very strong album. So that was number 5. Number 4, we've got Face the Music from 1976, which I could have put higher because it really is a great album. Perhaps didn't put it higher because it's not totally consistent all the way through, but it certainly starts off in brilliant fashion with Fire and High and Waterfall, followed by Evil Woman, the single. Those first 3 tracks are just 3 of my ELO favourites. And then we've got Strange Magic and One Summer Dream on side 2, which are gorgeous melodies, just tracks to die for. Number 3, we've got Time from 1981, the follow-up to Discovery, and I think an improvement on Discovery. Didn't much care for the first 2 tracks, the upbeat numbers, The Twilight and Yours Truly, but now after that the record takes off. Ticket to the Moon is a gorgeous ballad. The Way Life's Meant to Be is just one of their catchiest, most brilliant tracks. Another Heartbreak is instrumental at the end of side 1. Rain is Falling, gorgeous ballad from the End of the World, very effective. They did a video, not of that one, they did a video of Here Is the News, which is the other upbeat number from side 2, and The Lights Go Down, I think, is lovely. 21st Century Man is Jeff Lynne back, doing a ballad as only he can, really. And then Hold On Tight is the rock and roll track from the album. As I say, I can do without these rock and roll tracks, but that was one of the more successful ones, I think. So that was number 2. Number 1, we've got Out of the... Number 2, that was number 3. Number 2, we've got Out of the Blue, the double album from 77. I could so easily have put this at number 1, but right now it's at number 2 today. Just a masterpiece, and very consistent over its 4 sides. Sometimes double albums are criticised for being overblown. Indeed, this one was by some critics who didn't like ELO. But I think it's a masterful achievement, all the way from the opening track, Turn to Stone, Then It's Over, Sweet Talking Woman, one of their best ever singles. And then on side 2, with the brilliant ballad Starlight and Jungle, is also very atmospheric with the jungle rhythms. Stepping Out, great ballad which Jeff Lynne did recently again with Richard Tandy. I think it might be on that Best of ELO. Is it on here? Stepping Out? Maybe it's not, but he definitely did a version of it with Richard Tandy. Standing in the Rain, that whole of side 3, Big Wheels, Summer and Lightning, Mr. Blue Sky, Concerto for a Rainy Day, probably up there with Jeff Lynne's most brilliant achievements. And then it doesn't let up on side 4, because Sweet is the Night is a great opener, and then The Whale is instrumental, atmospheric, Birmingham Blues, a good rocker, and then Wild West Hero. In fact, I don't know why I didn't rank this number 1, looking at the track listing there, but anyway, it's number 2, and this album is obviously a brilliant one, in my opinion, to put at number 1, because it's more or less the same style and same quality, same period as Out of the Blue. It's the one that came from the year before, 76, and again, talk about consistency. You're starting off with Tightrope, which I know Jeff opens recent concerts with, and then you go into the brilliant single Telephone Line, and then one of their greatest rockers, Rocaria, and then the title track, The Mission, a World Record, closing a very strong side 1. Side 2 is almost as good, with So Fine opening it, and Living Thing, the nice hit single following, and Above the Clouds, short track but very, very atmospheric. do ya an earlier track. I think it might be on here actually somewhere. Maybe it's not. It's on one of the earlier. I think they did an early version of it and then they re-recorded it for this album, and it's an improvement. And then Shangri-La. I don't know how Jeff Lynne can write ballad after ballad of this quality. It really is staggering. So that was ELO's catalogue looked at, Jeff Lynne as well. Didn't include ELO 2 as well. The when Beth Bevan and the guys tried to carry on. Not sure if they did a studio album, but they toured for a bit. But it wasn't much to write home about. Jeff Lynne is the backbone behind ELO, and he's entitled to call himself ELO these days. Although I wish he'd give a bit more credit in interviews to the other band members, because they hardly get talked about. Seem to have been more or less forgotten. So this is my ranking of ELO and Jeff Lynne, and I don't suppose you agreed, but as I say, that's the point. All entitled to our opinions, and hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.